Now, NASA's new InSight lander has captured the first sounds of wind from Mars. Audio clips have been released of low-frequent rumblings, which scientists say are alien winds of up to 15 miles per hour. Let's take a listen. Well, joining me now is Per Wimmer, an astronaut and companion at the Royal Aeronautical Society. Good to see you. I mean, it is quite a low sound, so you'd probably need headphones to really be able to hear it in all its glory. But how excited should we be about this?
Oh, we should be very excited. This is the first sounds that we hear coming from Mars. Those sounds have traveled 483 million kilometers. Can you imagine? So from a technology point of view and a human achievement point of view, that is unbelievable. I mean, that's a huge distance. Now, we knew there were winds up there, so that's not the breaking news here. It's more the transmission, the technology, the fact we're able to do it. We knew that already from 1976 when we had the Viking missions there, because whilst we didn't hear the sounds of the wind, we knew that there was some shifting of the probe, and that came from wind. We also know that from time to time, when Mars gets the closest to the sun, that's when things heat up, a bit like we see in the Caribbean when you see warm winds coming from Africa, etc., and we have these awful hurricanes. It's a bit of the same system. When it gets closer to the sun, you get a lot of sort of turbulence, and you can actually see winds up to 160 kilometers an hour on Mars. So we know it's a windy place, and we knew that before, but this is the first time we actually hear it.
Why is it so important? Why is it so significant for us?
Well, it's very significant that we have the InSight probe there in the first place, because what we're trying to do here as NASA and as humankind is actually try to understand the origins of human life, the origins of the planets. So we're really rolling back to the evolution here. The seismometer there is going to check what is inside the Mars core. Is it liquid? Is it solid? We don't know.
What do you think it is?
I don't know. We don't know. We know there's a lot of ice on Mars, i.e. water, so a precondition for life. There is a huge amount of ice on both caps. In fact, if you melted that ice all across the planet, you would have about 11 meters of water across Mars. So there's plenty of water. We also know you got a lot of potassium, which is used for fertilizers and things like that. So you have a number of key ingredients. Big problem we have, if you and I were to go up there, is that the atmosphere on Mars is terribly hostile. You got 96% of carbon dioxide. So you and I couldn't breathe there. We would need lots of oxygens from Earth. So carbon dioxide, CO2, all the pollution we talk about on Earth. I mean, this is the equivalent of having a car sitting in a closed room and you step in there, you would feel very, very unpleasantly at stake. So that's the nature of it. The other thing as well is the atmosphere on Mars is very thin. You have the density or the pressure on the surface of Mars is about 1% of the pressure on Earth, meaning that water can't stay there, for instance. It has to go to the polar, so where it's frozen. It's very cold at the polars, but it can't stay there. So we need to understand further about this, and the InSight probe will help us understand what's inside the probe, what are the tectonic plates, how do they shift around? What about this massive bombardment that happened? We know that Mars was bombarded with lots of little planets, if you like, or small meteorites that hit at some point. We call it the late heavy bombardment. This would help us understand how life on Earth began. You know, so you can roll back the film 4 billion years, and Mars has probably got the most perfect histogram or print, if you like, if you were to go on any planet to really understand the origins of human life and the planet.
It's an amazing prospect. Yeah, it really is. You know, just looking at some of the footage that has been taken of the mission, Mars, a very red planet. I mean, why is that?
Mars is red for one simple reason. Mars is rusting. Mars is covering with a lot of iron ore. So a bit like you would find an old scrapyard and some old iron, that's what it is. There's a lot of iron ore on the surface of Mars. We also know today there's a lot of aluminium, a lot of potassium, a lot of magnesium. So there's a lot of minerals up there. In fact, some of those minerals are richer than we find here on Earth. But the reason for the red planet, that's iron ore, pure and simple.
Just very briefly, is there any chance of there being any form of alien life on the red planet?
It is not impossible. It is not impossible. And maybe InSight could tell us that, because once you go into the core, if we happen to find water inside somewhere there, who knows? There could be little microbes there that'll be living there, etc. So it could be. We know water can't sustain on the surface of Mars except on the polars, but inside, who knows? There's certainly other preconditions for it.
All little green men. Per, good to see.
Thank you.
Exciting stuff. Thank you. Now, it's